and saying no to the things that deplete you, yes to the things that energize you, including relationships. Suddenly the savior flips to the demon and people can flip real quick because you are now no longer living up to the projected expectations that they had of you.
Welcome to the Westeros Media Podcast, Lessons from the Ashes. We are here to tell the Phoenix Rising stories, coming up from the ashes to build businesses, to build personal brands, to parent, coming out, all of it. The stories of those who came from nothing and did great things. We all have a Phoenix Rising story, and I can't wait to hear yours. Join me every week for new podcast episodes. And of course, make sure you follow the show so that you never miss an episode. See you soon.
And welcome back to season 2 of Lessons from the Ashes. I'm very excited. We're in a fresh new year, and we actually have a follow-up with a beautiful guest that we had on at season 1, and we are going to dig even deeper. So Betsy is with us again today, but if you haven't listened to the first episode, please go back and listen to the first one because it's going to give a lot of context for what we're talking about today. Welcome. I'm so excited to have you back.
I'm so excited to be back. Thank you, and Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year. I know like so many people are like reflecting this time of year and being like, oh, new year, new me. And I always say, no, I'm sorry, sir. But new year, same you, unless you like use habits or an actual understanding of yourself to like make some real changes. So I hate the new year, new me thing. But also I got really into like making a book this year of like my visions. But I think the thing that actually makes those successful is like knowing more about yourself. So I'm very excited because today we're going to actually look at my human design chart. So again, if you haven't listened to the first one, go get a basic understanding of that and then circle back to this one because we're going to talk about like my specific chart. And I'm very excited because this is a topic that really interests me and also makes me a little bit like, what the hell? So I think we'll have mixed emotions.
As one does. Yes.
Yes. Mixed emotions is good. Okay. So you do this with people all the time. So like guide me through, tell me the secrets, tell me how this goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and I think that's such a good level set because, you know, we are a full spectrum of the totality of our life experience. And, you know, I've been thinking about the nature of human design lately, and I really feel like your chart is kind of like the story of your becoming. Like life is a journey. And so this isn't here to tell you like, this is who I am. And this is like the prescriptive plot points of my life that I'm going to hit at a certain point, but it gives you the themes that you're working with. And it gives you the ability to learn how to work with your energy and live the most authentically. And we come more and more into that, the more life we live. And that's the point. Like the journey really truly is the point. There is no magical destination out there that you get to reach and then you're done, you know? And I think that's exciting. So when I meet with people, you know, usually there's some core question that they're looking for, even if it's just to understand themselves better, like you said. And I think especially at the beginning of a new year, it's like, okay, how do I do my life better? How do I feel more like me? How can I make the decisions that are going to best help me accomplish my goals or, you know, things like that? I mean, habit stacking is essentially stacking choices one on top of the other.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, every individual choice you're making. How do you know you're living those in alignment instead of out of some conditioned response or fear response or, you know, something like that? So what I think is fun about doing this episode is like, I talk about human design conceptually all the time, but people are like, what does it actually look like when you do a reading for someone? So this is kind of like a peek behind the curtain almost of like, okay, if you were to sit down with me, this is kind of one way it could look of looking at your chart and applying it to your life and seeing like, okay, how are the themes of your design playing out for you in your life and helping you live the most authentically? So
Love that.
Yeah. Before I get into anything, I'm curious, do you want me to share your chart itself, or I can just talk about it while I'm looking at it, and then you could put like a link if you want people to see it, or I don't know if you have it in front of you.
I think share it. I think
Okay,
I'm a
perfect.
visual
That's what
learner,
I usually
so
do
let's
when
do
I
that.
do a session. Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see if I have share capability. Actually, before I share it, the place I always start in a human design reading is looking at type, because type and strategy are really the foundation for human design. So you can know like all the nitty-gritty details about your chart and, you know, the gates and the channels and all of that stuff. But if you're not living fundamentally in alignment with your strategy, you're probably not going to be living into the highest expression of the rest of the energies of your chart. So you are a projector, which we talked a little bit about in the first episode. And your type is really about the role that you're here to play in this life. So like if your chart was a story, your type is kind of like the role you're here to play. We'll talk about your profile today, which is kind of like your character. And then the incarnation cross, which is like a high level indicator of purpose in the chart, is kind of like the plot. Where does the story go? So the role that you're here to play as a projector is to guide and manage others. You innately have this sense of the bigger picture of the highest potential for how life and things can function. Now, you're not necessarily supposed to be the person like in the trenches building the thing, but it's that bigger picture vision, that deep understanding at your core of how things can function optimally that is meant to guide and manage those around you. Now, the key for projectors and your strategy is about waiting for an invitation. And I think that this can be really confusing for people up top. They're like, wait a second, I have to like sit around and twiddle my thumbs and just like wait for someone to invite me. And people don't like that, especially because we're not taught to function that way. Like we're taught if you want something, go out and make it happen, right? Go initiate it. Truthfully, there's really only one type in the human design system that's designed to initiate, which is the manifestor. And they're like less than 10% of the population. So they're kind of a rare type of the human design system. But even they have waiting involved in their strategy because they are waiting for that kind of internal sense or click of like when to act on something. There's a divine timing aligned in everything. So I like to tell everyone, really no one is just designed to like on a whim be like, this is what I want to do and I'm going to go make it happen right now. Yeah, there's an alignment process that is required and an awareness of right time and knowing how to interact with like the quantum field of the world around you in order to actually manifest what you're desiring. So for you, the key with the invitation and for all projectors is it's about being recognized. Because if you go try to like throw the pearls of your wisdom at the feet of people who haven't recognized you, they're not going to value what you have to say. They're going to write it off or they're going to criticize or they're going to judge or they're just not going to appreciate it at all. And then that can make you as a projector feel unseen, undervalued, unappreciated, which can lead to the emotional theme for the projector, which can be bitterness, which doesn't sound great, but like if you don't feel valued as a human, like hell yeah, I would feel pretty bitter about
Oh, yeah.
right? Like no one sees me, no one gets me, no one appreciates, like I have all these gifts in here, no one wants them. Like that feels awful, right? So you're not here to guide and manage everyone. You're here to guide and manage your people. And so the people who recognize you, those are the ones who see like, oh yeah, Stephanie has some wisdom. Stephanie gets it. Like I want what she's got over there. Like please help and guide me, right? Those are your people. So like the people that are coming to you now and hiring you that are saying, please coach me, please show me how to do this thing. They recognize that you've got something that is going to benefit them. As soon as you get that invitation, you're off to the races. You can go and act like a manifestor, initiate whatever you want. But without that initial recognition, you're going to be using up your precious energy with like no result. And that feels like shit, right?
Yes.
So is this resonating so far?
Oh yeah, like I always joke, I'm like, yeah, I have a major praise kink. Like if people see me for who I am, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. And honestly, I think that's like a deep human, like we all want to feel seen and witnessed, desired, but like especially the projector, like that recognition is so, so key. So I also like to tell people like really pay attention. And one of the ways that I coach people to like start recognizing how their strategy plays out in the wild is like think back to a time when something worked out really well for you. Guarantee somewhere at the beginning of that, there was an invitation that you responded to. You were invited into something, and you might not have even been aware of it because you were operating without this kind of as your, perspective for how to function in the world. But like you probably received an invitation in some form. It could have been someone literally walking up to you and being like, hey, have you ever thought about doing this thing? Or do you want to collaborate on something? Or you should come check out this new city. I think you'd really like it. You should move here or whatever, right? But sometimes, a lot of projectors I talk to now are like, you can get invitations like in your email inbox, someone inviting you to join a program and like getting that internal sense of like, oh, that feels really good to me. Like, I want to join that. That feels like something I need. or, you know, someone puts out a public call for something and it resonates with you. And so really pay attention to like, what are the various ways that invitations can show up? Because there's the very obvious way of someone verbally coming and inviting you. And then there's some ways that you might not have thought of, right? And so that's the first key, is learning to pay attention to where the invitation's showing up for you. The second piece about the invitation that's so important is, and I need to emphasize this to all my projectors out there, you don't have to say yes to every invitation that comes your way. Your no's are just as important as your yeses. Because if you have that kind of lack consciousness of like, oh, I got an invitation, I got to grab it because I don't know when the next one is coming. If it's not an aligned invitation, you're still going to end up kind of spinning your wheels or using your energy in a situation that's not aligned for you. So if you're getting invitations and they don't feel right, like you got to still trust your internal knowing about that. And you got to trust that if this isn't the right invitation, another one's coming behind it that is aligned. And the more you hold boundaries around your energy and say no to the things and the invitations that don't feel right, the more you're making space for the ones that are. And you're kind of categorizing or like showing the universe, like, not this, yes, that, right? Like it's giving feedback to the universe about what to bring you. One of the biggest questions that I get from projectors is like, how do I get more invitations? Because everyone's like, how do I get that invitation? I will say there's a lot of ways, but two of the biggest things. Number one, you got to know your worth. And I think that bitterness, if you felt unseen or unrecognized for so long, it can really take a hit on that, right? You're like, oh my God, no one is recognizing me. Do I even have anything valuable to add at all? It can really make you start questioning yourself. The more that you cultivate your sense of worth and value, an aligned projector has the most magnetic aura. And like, I feel like just from following your journey, I feel like you're kind of experiencing that right now. Like, right? Like when you start showing up in an aligned way, true to yourself, authentic to yourself, knowing who you are, what you're about, and what you have to offer, people are like, I want some of that. Like, what do you have going on over there? Like, can I get some? Right? And the invitations just start coming because you know you got it. And so when you have that sense of value and worth, not only are people drawn to that magnetism of your aura, the right people are drawn because they're attracted to your authentic energy. The people who aren't right for you are going to be repelled by that, as they should be, because you don't want them wasting your time. The right people are drawn in. Yeah. And then the invitations start flowing, and the value also helps you hold the boundary of like, I'm not going to say yes to things that aren't right for me either, because I know my value and I'm not going to settle. So that's the first thing. Second thing, energy. One of the things that makes a projector is having what we call an open sacral center. So the sacral center in the chart, and I'll show it to you when I share the chart itself, is the center for work and life force energy. So any place that you have open or white in your human design chart are places where you have kind of inconsistent access to or patterns of that energy, and also where you take in that energy from around you. So projectors by nature don't necessarily have sustainable access to work and life force energy, which doesn't mean that you're tired or lazy or not energetic. It just means that you have your own rhythm of how your cycles of energy will flow. And so you need to be tuned into when you need cycles of rest. Like, you aren't necessarily designed to hustle for 12, 13, 14, 18-hour days. Like, that's not healthy, you know? And so if you have pushed with energy you don't have for too long and gotten to this cycle of burnout, if you don't have the energy, the universe is not going to bring you the opportunities and the invitations to respond to, because you're too exhausted to actually act on them in an authentic way. So self-worth and sustainable energy are the two biggest keys for projectors in really magnetizing and attracting the right invitations for you. I'm going to pause for a moment and see if you have questions or how this is all landing so far.
Okay, I really like how you explained the energy, because so far everything I've heard about like human design is basically just like, projectors can't do all of these things. And then I was like, I'll fucking show you. And obviously that didn't work. Yeah. But I love that, like, if I'm well resourced, then the things will come. Because I have been like working on that same concept for like my mental health. Like, if I do these things, I'm good. Like, last year I had terrible, terrible seasonal depression. And this year I was like, I'm on a motherfucking mission. This is not happening again. And I like did all the things. And if I know the list, like I know the list, if I stick to these things, then I have enough energy and I'm good. And like, I don't feel bad anymore about being tucked into my little bed by 8 p.m. with my book. Like, that is a hell yes for me.
Yeah, 100%. And I love hearing that because the truth is your human design should never feel limiting. The point is it's supposed to break you out of the boxes you were told to fit into, not put you into new ones. So like, I was just talking to another projector friend about this recently. I have some friends who will text me sometimes and be like, someone who talks about human design said this thing. Is this true? Because this sounds terrible. And oftentimes it's some sort of sweeping generalization like that of like, all projectors are this way, or projectors don't have energy. And I'm like, ugh, anytime you hear a generalization, and that's a rule anytime, right? It's like if someone
Oh
said
yeah.
this or never that, like you hear a sweeping generalization like that, probably not true, right?
Mhm.
So again, it's just about like, it sounds like you've done the work to be like, okay, what keeps me vital, healthy, and energized? And sometimes it's about physical practices like cold plunge or diet or, exercising in a certain way. Sometimes it's about like, I know that I need to take a siesta every day. I'm going to be napping from 12 to 1. I do not take calls. I put my phone away. I open the space in my schedule. This is my midday rest time. Or
Mhm.
I don't start work until 10 a.m. Or, right, like, but everyone's going to be different. And so there are things that you can do if you know you're keeping your vital energetic resources up, you're good. It's just about not pushing through when you don't have the energy and saying no to the things that deplete you, yes to the things that energize you, including relationships, including lifestyle choices, including work, right? Like the more you can align all these things so that you are filling your resource cup, the more overflow you have to give with. So it's not supposed to be a limit. It's just about learning how your unique energy functions and knowing that there's going to be cycles with it too. So
Mhm.
just because this is what works for you now, it may not, something different might work better in a year or 5 years or, whatever. And allowing yourself to flow with that also is really, really helpful, which is the same for humans. Like as we age, as our hormone cycles change, as our monthly cycles change, like tracking all of that, it's all going to have an impact, right?
Totally. Yeah, I think that same thing happens like when people like they look at their astrology too. They're like, "Oh, well, you're a Libra, you're like this." And I'm like, "Well, I'm a lot of things actually."
That's right.
I'm a
Yeah.
double Libra, so some of those generalizations are true.
Well, that's the thing. Some of them resonate and some of them don't. And so I always tell people in a reading or anytime we talk about human design too, like take what works for you and leave the rest. The whole
Mm,
point of this is bringing you closer to your internal knowing and compass of what feels true and right to you. I am not diagnosing or prescribing you with anything. You're the one who knows best what works for you. So like, same with I tell people to question everything, like internal check-in, yes or no,
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
so. Cool. So, we were talking about that decision-making strategy, right? Like as you're looking at the new year and you're looking at growth and you're looking at how do I make these decisions, for you as a projector, you know that you're looking for that invitation. You know that if you get this like idea or inspiration about something that you want to act on, how can you keep putting energy maybe into feeding that inspiration, but knowing like, okay, until an invitation shows up that tells me right place, right time, right people, right moment to act on it, I'm going to just keep like building my foundation, preparing the way, doing the things that I need to get ready so that when that invitation comes, I'm ready and I'm off to the races instead of being like, have an idea, gonna go make it happen. Because that's how it probably won't work out the way that you wanted it to. And then you're going to spin your wheels and get frustrated. So as you're looking ahead to this year, look at where those invitations are coming and look at patterns for those invitations. Like, what am I being invited into? Like, where are the places and spaces that are opening up for me? Which of those places excite me? Which of them feed and give me energy? And which feel kind of depleting, like things I might want to leave behind? So that awareness can be really helpful as you look at like, all right, how am I building my year and what invitations are showing up and what invitations am I carrying forward from last year and which ones am I done with now? Yeah. Okay.
And some people off.
Right? I know. Okay, let me see if I have the ability to share. I don't see it here. I don't know if I can share as guest.
Um,
Oh, I see it. 1 second. And can you see that?
I can.
Woo. Okay, so this is your chart. And
Wow.
I know the first time people see their human design charts, and I will say how it looks, it'll generally be the same as far as like the shapes and the numbers and the planetary symbols and things like that. Different software the appearance of it might, like the lines might be straighter or more curved. Like this background is something that I kind of customized in the software that I use. So They won't all look exactly the same, but they'll all have the same information on them. So just to like level set for you and anyone who's watching. So basically what this is a snapshot of where the planets were at the moment you were born. And similar to astrology, all of the different aspects that come into human design carry different archetypes and themes, and how you put all of those energies and themes together tells a story about kind of the blueprint for how you're energetically designed to function. So these symbols here on the side in the red and the black, these are the planetary notations. So you've got sun, earth, the nodes, moon, Mercury, Venus, that kind of thing. And then the numbers that are next to them are the human design gates. So essentially, for a visual, if you imagine kind of a mandala or a wheel, on the outer wheel of that mandala are the hexagrams of the I Ching, and each of those carry a specific story or archetype of energy. And those are fixed, they stay where they are. On the internal wheel of the mandala are the planets, and they move. So the planets kind of transit through each of the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching at any given time of the year. So when I am looking at your human design chart, what I'm basically seeing is here is where each of these planets were in which hexagram at the moment you were born. And so wherever that planet was in this hexagram lights up inside the body graph that you see in the center. So for example, this is your conscious sun. It was in gate 57. Gate 57 is right here. It's colored in on your chart because there was a planet transiting through that hexagram when you were born. So anything that's colored in, all these little numbers that are colored in here on the body graph, there was a planet transiting through that hexagram, or that gate, as we call it in human design, when you were born. So anything that's defined or colored in your chart is going to give you a consistent theme related to that energy. It's essentially like the consistent themes you'll be playing out in your life. You'll feel these coming up from time to time periodically throughout your life. Anywhere that's white in your chart or not colored in is what we call open or undefined. And as I mentioned, these are places where you'll have inconsistent access to that energy. And you'll actually, if you get into the aura of someone else who has that energy defined, you'll be taking in and experiencing that energy the way that they do. And you'll actually be amplifying it back out. So the open places of your chart are places where we're kind of susceptible to conditioning, because if you take in someone else's energy and you think that's you, then you're kind of operating from an inauthentic expression within your own self, because what you're really designed to do is to be wise about that energy, to take in and experience lots of different ways that energy can function through relationships. And then you have kind of a big holistic understanding of that energy. So the idea, and a lot of times when people learn about the kind of open or potentially conditioned places of their chart, they realize, oh my God, for example, like this is the emotional solar plexus center of the chart. It's the center for emotional energy. Yours is wide open, which means that's the mark of an empath. You are deeply empathic. You feel other people's emotions. If you get around someone else who has emotional definition, they have set patterns of emotional energy, you're going to be picking up on all that emotional energy from them and amplifying it. So sometimes people with an open emotional center will be called like the drama queen of the family or the friend group. Like, oh my God, why are you so emotional all the time? But the truth is, I bet that if you are in your own aura, you're probably a pretty even keeled person. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's when you get around other people that gets a little wild. So
there's the problem. Excellent.
Yeah. So there are a lot of people who are empaths like this who will be like, oh my God, I thought I was such a drama queen my whole life, but actually that was my mom. My mom has emotional energy and I was just running her feelings my whole life. That was never me. That was them. And then you get to go on a journey of like deconditioning. Okay, A, I'm not as dramatic as everybody says I am. And B, take responsibility for your own feelings. And C, I don't have to run everyone else's feelings all the time. I get to notice like, that's not me. That's them. I don't have to take on their feelings and run it all the time. So there's kind of a liberation that happens when we recognize like, oh, that was never me. And we can let that story go and then start living from the more kind of baseline of how our energy is designed to function. Did that make sense?
Totally. Oh yeah. That's a game changer for sure.
Yeah. So even just that basic sense of learning, like where are the open centers and places in my chart? Where have I maybe been running other people's energy this whole time thinking it's me when it wasn't? And how do I come back into the authentic expression of my energy? So the combination of that with then learning and understanding the more consistent themes you're playing out is really where you start to kind of build a more concrete story of like, okay, who am I in this life? How am I designed to function? Not just in how I make decisions, but in how I run my energy and interact with the world and in relationships. It can be really freeing.
That's so cool.
Cool. All right. So I will just say, I'll go through some more of the technical pieces like I just did with that center there, but I sometimes like telling people off the top, like, what are some of the bigger picture things that I see about your chart? And I laughed when I ran your chart last night because we had a little conversation of like, should I run your chart ahead of time or should we do it live on the pod and like get my live reaction? And I was like, let me run it ahead of time. So I'll just take a peek and then we can jump in. But there was a part of me that laughed when I ran it because literally every time I run a chart, I go, because people are just so fascinating and everyone's chart is like so gorgeous and like I just love it. Every time I see someone, I'm like, oh, look at this beautiful human. And I hope that everyone can know that and walk away with that from a human design reading of like, look at this beauty of who I am and the gifts that I have to offer. Because that's how I feel whenever I look at a chart. I'm like, you are gorgeous. So, number one, you are an incredibly intuitive person by design, like deeply intuitive. And you might not always know how you just know things sometimes. And a lot of times our culture and our society doesn't really value any other way of knowing besides like logic. People want to know how and like explain what you know and like break it down and prove it to me, right? And you have some logic in your chart as well. So there are some ways in which you might feel an instinct to want to prove what you know. But there's a journey for you too in learning to just trust yourself, that you know what you know, and you don't always have to know how to explain it. And partly the purpose that you are here for is through that beautiful intuitive wisdom to use that as a guiding force for yourself and for others. And I'm sure you bring that into your work. Am I right?
Oh yeah. I definitely feel like I'm more in touch with it now.
Mm-hmm.
But there are for sure things that I'm like, oh, I knew exactly how this was going to play out and I did it anyway.
Yeah, yeah. And the reason I say that about you, anytime I see, like, do you see how there's a 57 here and here and here?
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I see what's called a repeating gate, like I see a gate like this multiple times, and like that's going to be a big theme for someone. Gate 57 is what we call the gate of psychic intuition. It doesn't know how it knows, it just knows. So that's a big theme for you and a big driver. And it's up here in your sun, which makes it one of the biggest, most prominent energies in your design. You're kind of leading with intuition out in the world. So there's that. Another really big theme for you is ideas and inspiration. I'm guessing you are the kind of person who has like a million ideas coming to you all the time.
Always, yes.
Yeah, like downloading all the time. Like you don't have enough days in your life to do all the ideas that are going to come to you. And you're not necessarily meant to, but part of your path in this life is in learning how to work with that inspiration and also in learning like you also are an incredibly inspiring person by design. Like these are ideas and inspiration you have, but it's also inspiration that you're giving and gifting to other people. So now it's in both your set, like, look, you see 11, 11, 11, 11 four times, and you have it in your Saturn and your Uranus. And so this is the gate of ideas in human design. It's like ideas and inspiration about how we see the world. So there's a big learning lesson for you because Saturn is about the lessons we're meant to learn about. And that it's kind of a teaching planet. I hear the click of a pen. We're taking notes.
Writing down these numbers.
I know. So there's a lesson that you have to learn about how to work with these ideas and inspirations in a good way. And what's interesting is as a projector, by nature, you do better when you're invited anyway. And so does this energy. So your ideas and inspirations do better when other people ask you for them. When they're like, can you share these ideas with me? Instead of when you just start offering them up to people. But really, the ideas that you have are kind of like, do you sometimes have wild and wacky, like out there, out of the box? Like, I'm guessing that the ideas that come to you are things that kind of break the mold, as it were.
Yeah, everybody thinks I'm nuts. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because Uranus is the planet of shakeups and like doing things differently, but it's also the planet, like it shakes things up for the sake of our liberation. Like gets us free to do things differently. So like you kind of have liberatory, like wild out there, kind of crazy, different, couldn't predict it, surprising ideas. And some of them are going to hit and some of them are not. And a lot of that also is about sensing the right timing to act on them. So like being invited into the idea and inspiration is when it's probably the right time to act on it. But this is a big theme for you as well. Like, how are you using the ideas and inspirations you have and intuitively knowing when the right time is to act on them so that they can have the greatest impact out in the world? The last thing that I just wanted to say for you before we kind of jump into the more technical details is like, you have, I don't know how to describe it other than kind of, there's a lot of spiritual-ish energy in your chart. I'm guessing that you've kind of lived through some initiatory, maybe shakeups in your life, some big initiating life moments that have perhaps been like, sometimes they're like the rug being pulled out from under you, like things just happening that I mean, I know you've talked about like how you tore your whole life down in order to live more authentically. Like, that's a good example. But like, you know, it can be just kind of the unexpected things. Now, that initiatory life path and the purpose of that is all about waking us up to the next level of our spiritual growth and evolution and our purpose. And that's also part of what you're here to help other people do. Like, you're here to help people along their paths to growth. And you kind of innately see, and this is part of your projector nature, but also you're a deeply compassionate person by design. You see like the highest potential of what we can live into. And I see this in themes in a few different ways throughout multiple energies of your chart. Like, you see the highest potential, you understand the underlying nature of like the oneness and the value of all things and how interconnected everything is. And you're like, how can we live into the highest potential, people? Like, how can we do this the best way possible and bring more joy and bring more wholeness and bring more oneness and more unity and like more betterment to the planet? You're nodding, so I'm guessing that's resonating.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you're not wrong about that. It's part of what you came here to do. And when the right time and when your intuition pings you, like, and when you're responding to the right invitations to act, you have a really beautiful gift for like coalescing people around a certain idea or an inspiration or opportunity at the right time that is able to make the impact that you want to make out in the world. You're a very charismatic person by design as well. And that charisma and magnetism is part of the gift that helps you live out your purpose as well. So those are just some of the bigger picture overarching things I would name just off the top. That those are the bigger, like, a lot of times when I look at a chart, it's like there's repeating themes in different ways that all kind of interconnect to make this woven bigger picture story. So I sometimes like to call that out at the beginning of a session, just to be like, here's some of the bigger picture themes I see and just see if people resonate with that. So that all resonate with you.
Sounds like I should for sure start a cult.
Did you say a cult?
Yeah.
I was like, didn't you? Well, I won't say that out loud.
No, yes, I did leave a cult.
Yeah.
Totally joking. But I do feel that though, like I've never, like people always ask me, they're like, well, why, like, you're just a photographer, like, why do you care about more things? I'm like, because there's more to this picture than just the pictures. There's more to this. Like, I've never been content with just the one thing, like the one part of it. And some people are, like, good for them. But for me, it's always been like, but there's more to this story. So we can't just stop here.
Well, and I'm guessing that even though you saying it's not just the one thing, I'm guessing that the parts and pieces that you care about, there's an underlying thread that weaves through all of it that is like the undercurrent that ties the bigger picture and purpose of it all together.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I feel
you
like
see it because you have that bigger picture understanding, but not everyone has that vision that you do. So they might not get it, but you do. So you got to trust your instinct on that. You're like, no, guys, this is all connected.
Just wait. It's gonna
just
be great.
You wait. That's your I'll show you right there. You're
okay.
like, wait, I see the bigger picture. You'll get it at some point.
Someday it will all make sense.
That's right. And it's okay if it makes sense to you and doesn't make sense to other people. And the people who see what you see and like your vision and resonate with your vision, those are the people that are coming to you like, yes, please. Right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I really like that because I've always felt that. I'm like, the people who don't like me, I'm like, fine, don't. But then like get out of the way.
Okay. I love that you said that. And normally I jump into centers before profile, but I feel like it's really important we talk about your profile and you're kind of touching on some parts of it as well. So you notice how there's little decimal points after each of the numbers here, 1 through 6. So this is in the weeds, but just the reason I'm talking about it. Every hexagram of the I Ching has 6 lines. and a planet transits through all 6 lines of one hexagram before moving on to the next one. So the decimal point is which line of the hexagram it was in. It's a whole rabbit hole. It would take years to, anyway. But I mention it because the line of your sun at the very top here, the circle with the dot in it, the 2 decimal points in your conscious and unconscious sun make your profile. So yours is a 3-5 profile. I don't really like, and I will just say, I was trained and mentored by Karen Curry Parker, who created quantum human design. And so I use a mix of traditional and quantum human design language when I teach or when I offer readings. And the reason that I like the quantum human design language, and I highly recommend if this is like you want to get trained to do this professionally or something, I can't recommend her highly enough, is because the quantum human design language kind of takes the traditional essence and elevates the language to a higher vibration. So there's an essence to the traditional human design language that in some ways is meant to show you parts of who you're not. And a lot of times we need to understand what doesn't feel right before we can know what does. But then having that picture of like the highest expression of who you are and like where you're going, like you want to see that highest picture of yourself to like have a destination in mind instead of like just focusing on the parts that don't feel right. You need the picture of what does. So the quantum human design language will give you that. So I prefer the language for these profile lines from quantum human design. And so the 3rd line profile in traditional human design is called the martyr. I don't particularly enjoy that name. It's more of an explorer in quantum human design. And this is an experiential energy. So I remember in our first conversation, you were like, I'm a fuck around and find out kind of person. That's the energy of your 3rd line profile. You need to try something in order to know if it's right for you. And this is in direct contrast to someone who maybe has a 1st line profile where they want to learn about everything. Like they want to read about it. They want to research. They need to conceptually understand and have all the information. You could have all the information in the entire world, but until you try it, you're not going to know if it's right for you. The trick with 3rd line profiles is like there's trial and error involved. Like, and so it's easy for people to criticize a 3rd line sometimes for making too many mistakes or for you to feel like you failed at something. But guess what? You can't make a mistake and you can't fail. You need every single one of those experiences because what you learn from that informs what you do next. You're like, oh, that didn't work. Let me go this way. You need it. And so sometimes 3rd lines can be like, oh God, people are just going to criticize me because, you know, I failed at this thing and I failed at that and I made this mistake and I'm not even going to try anymore. Well, then you're never, if you don't keep experimenting and exploring and trying, you're not going to get the feedback you need to know what's actually right for you. So, you know, it's just good for 3rd lines to know that like, this is just a part of your nature. You got to do the fuck around and find out piece. Like that's how you are designed to function, but it's not how everyone's designed to function.
Right.
And there are going to be ways also that you kind of push people's edges a little bit of like, just try it. Right. And some people are going to push back against you and be like, no, I don't want to, or that doesn't feel right. And sometimes, you know, you get to lead with the wisdom of the experience that you have too, where it's like, oh guys, I did that. Do not go over there. Do this instead. Right. Like I did it for you. So you don't have to like learn from me. Right. That's part of the wisdom of what you teach and lead from. I love when people laugh and smile and nod so much. They're like, oh my God, I can never explain this to people. So,
oh yeah.
Yeah, just validating, like, absolutely, that's how you're designed to function. And, you know, there's pieces of that in business where it's like, okay, I'm going to try it this way. That didn't work. I'm going to try it this way. That didn't. Now I'm going to try this way. Okay, this is it. This feels good. This is working. This is pumping, right? So that's a big piece of your nature. The 5th line of your profile is something that I really wanted to talk about as it related to some of the things that you just said about like, if people don't get it, move out the way. So in quantum human design, the 5th line is called the visionary leader. And this kind of compounds on that energy of your projector nature of you see, the 5th line sees the highest potential of what's possible. And the visionary leader quality of it is you see that vision of what's possible and you're here to lead us forward into that potential. Now, as a projector, the places where you're designed to lead that way, again, are the places where you're invited into that leadership, where you're recognized. One of the things about this 5th line is that you walk in what's called a projection field. Because as part of this leading us into potential, you're kind of like a karmic mirror for other people. So you sometimes will be reflecting back the highest potential of what can be, and then also highlighting the places where we're not necessarily in alignment with that highest potential yet. And if other people don't like that, or they're not ready to take a look at that truth, or they're not doing their own introspective work, they can project onto you the things that they themselves need to work on. And so I know a lot of fifth lines who will say, like, they'll just walk in a room and people will have this very strong response to them right off the bat. And it's like, you don't even know me. We haven't said 2 words to each other. Like, why are you reacting this way to me? It's not anything you're doing. It's who you are. It's your aura. And so you'll probably find throughout your life that you end up in projection fields that either feel good, like they feel like people are seeing the truth of who you are, or a projection field that does not feel great. Like people are projecting onto you things that aren't really who you are. And part of the journey of the fifth line is learning to differentiate those things and learning to be like, okay, this is a projection, that's not me. And then easier said than done, but almost learning to walk around like, in some ways, what other people think of me is none of my business, because it's actually not about me. It's about them. And their projection has to do with them, not me. And this can be really hard, especially, I think, for fifth line children as they're learning to navigate the world of like, it can be really hard to differentiate that projection field from who you are. Or if people are like telling you you're being a certain way or doing a certain thing, and you're like, wait, but that's not me, or they're misinterpreting who I am or misinterpreting my intention, you know, it can be really tricky. And so I really encourage people to feel like, what is the projection field that you find yourself in? Does it feel good or does it not? As much as possible, lean into the projection fields with people that you feel like really truly see you and get you and are reflecting back the highest version of you. Because we all know what that feels like. We all know, well, I hope you know what it feels like to have someone like being your biggest cheerleader of like, you're amazing and you can do this. And why the heck are you doing that over there? Because you're brilliant and you should be, you know, like, and like where it feels like someone gets you and is really supporting you in that way, versus when it just feels like someone's constantly vomiting all that crap onto you and making it about you when it's really about them. It doesn't feel great. So, I mean, is this something you feel like you've experienced a lot in your life, that kind of projection?
Yes, there are some very specific examples that are coming up. I feel like I am either the hero or the villain in everyone's story.
Yes.
And there are, although there's a couple main ones, people who've been super important to me who have flipped. Like it started with them thinking I was amazing, and then it flipped to like not just them being indifferent, them being like fucking hate me. And I always felt like I was like really terrible for that. That like that's happened more than once, but
so here's my question, because that hero or the villain thing is classic fifth line. You're either the hero or the villain of someone's story, and it can flip. And a lot of times, you can tell me if you feel like this is true. Some of the things that get projected onto the fifth line are expectations of who someone should be for them. There are a lot of fifth line children, especially, who feel like they should be the good child, the good one, have to be perfect or have to live up to some standard that's been projected on them by their family of origin or community or society. And if you suddenly start not living up to those expectations, like, for example, leaving a community you were a part of, or living your life in a different way that other people don't agree with, for example, suddenly
yes.
The savior flips to the demon, and people can flip real quick because you are now no longer living up to the projected expectations that they had of you. Does that feel right?
Bang on. 100%. Yes.
Yeah. And those are the hardest, especially if it's family of origin, especially if it's like childhood relationships, formative relationships, partners, community. Like if you have to leave a community that you genuinely deeply love and people reject, I mean, that rejection cuts deep. That's sometimes the hardest one, to be like, it's not about me, it's about them. I am not bad or wrong. These were projections about what would make me good, instead of I'm living into my truth. And the people who really see me and get me are going to love me through that, because they see, you know, I want to give a shout out to Sandra Lee. She's a lovely human design specialist who also trained in the same community. And she's a fifth line. And she gave me this analogy, or gave a lot of people this analogy of like, the projection field is almost like this clear, like if you had a clear glass, it's like you're walking, this is a horrible, it's not a claw, it's a glass. But like you're walking around with this field around you all the time. really what your job is to keep that field clear. The more that you can know who you are and know that you are acting from the truest, most beautiful version of yourself. So this field that you're walking around with stays clear. What you're putting out in the world is coming through a clear field. It's true and it's honest. And then however someone reacts to it is none of your business because you've done your job of keeping your own field clear. If you start taking on those projections of other people or thinking you have to be a certain way or you're supposed to be, et cetera, and living from that conditioning, this field starts to get really mucky. And then the field itself isn't clear. So then the energy you're putting out is coming through a distorted, murky field, and it's actually not clear at all. Like what you're putting out in the world gets distorted. And then it creates a whole nother set of like miscommunications or projections because it got kind of distorted on its way out of you. So the more that you can just stay true to like, I know who I am, I know my value, I know my worth, then like really be discerning about who is around you and who you keep, then it really is none of your business how people respond to you because you've done your part. You know what I mean?
Oh man, needed to hear that for sure.
Oh, good. So yeah, again, really bigger picture, like projector nature, fifth line, and also just a couple of the gates in your chart. Like you really are here to see and lead us into the highest potential, you know, to use your intuitive knowingness and this bigger sense of what you see to lead us into that. And the more that you can just know your worth and value, know you have that wisdom to share and allow the right people to find and invite you, the more you're going to make the impact that you're meant to make and the more success and ease you're going to find in doing it.
Love that.
Okay, good. I want to be mindful of time. Do you want to go into a little bit more here?
Yeah, let's do a little bit more.
Okay. So, a couple of other little things that, well, they're not little, that I would mention is you've got a lot of pressure built into your design. So this is the head center of the chart. It's the center for ideas and inspiration. And all of these geometric shapes in the chart are connected to the Hindu chakras. They're basically like energy hubs. They run different types of energy. So whether they're open or defined in your chart is going to give you a sense for like how you'll run that energy. So when this center is open like this, it's one of the two pressure centers of the chart. You're by design kind of under pressure to figure things out. So you probably feel very uncomfortable with the unknown and not having the answer. And when you don't know, you're like, okay, how do I figure out the answer? How do I know the next right step? How do I know the next right thing to do? You're kind of under pressure to figure it out and then to be really certain about what you know. But you're actually designed to be a holistic thinker and to live in response to what shows up for you. So the more that you can kind of have those ideas and inspiration, get a little more comfortable with uncertainty and the unknown, and just respond to like, what are the invitations that are showing up for me to act on and what feels right, then you're going to just be making the most aligned choices instead of acting from the pressure to figure it out. Because sometimes when we're like so hooked into needing to know, we can kind of manufacture things that aren't necessarily our most aligned choices. On top of that, this center down here, the square at the bottom is the root center. Connected to the root chakra. It's the center for adrenaline energy and getting things done. This is the second pressure center in the chart when it's open. So you've got the double pressure here in your chart. So not only are you under pressure to figure it out, you're also under pressure to get things done. So I don't know if it feels like for you that you kind of have a constant list of things and you're like, I just have to do these 10 things and then I can be free to go do what I really want to do.
Yes, 100%.
Okay. But then the list kind of never ends. Like you finish the 10 things, but 10 more came behind them. So it's like, it never ends. So one of the lessons for you in this, in making decisions and in living your life is not to act from pressure. If you are feeling a sense of urgency in any way, like unless you're really in a life death decision, like you got to make some choices and you got to do it now, like prioritizing, huge for you in learning what to do in your life. What are things that actually really do need to get done today? And what are things that could wait till tomorrow, next week? Like what's the real true deadline at which like it's actually necessary? And then learning to carve out the time and space for you to have the time for you to do the things that restore your energy, like you were talking about earlier, which it seems like you're prioritizing now. So learning not to act from pressure is really big with your design. One of the things that I want to caution you, because you told me before we hopped on today that this has been your busiest January ever. And you're used to kind of easing into the year, but this year has been off to the races. By design, so this little triangle right here is the will center of the chart. This is literally the center for willpower. this is kind of a rare configuration. Only 1/8 of the population has this defined. So most people actually don't have consistent access to willpower. You do, which means you can push through and do it anyway, even if you don't have the energy. And on top of that, with your open sacral center, you might sometimes have trouble knowing when enough is enough, because you're picking up on all that sacral doing energy from around you, and you might be like, okay, I can do this, I'm going to push through, I got it, and then you just at some point crash and burn. So you've got the pressure to do things and the urgency to do things, the not knowing when enough is enough, and the ability to push through. So I just want to make sure that in the excitement of this very busy January and this massive growth cycle that you're in, which is amazing, make sure that you're still prioritizing your energetic needs. If you need to rest, rest. Like, if someone messages you and is like, please, can you fit me into whatever? Like, don't eat into the time you've carved out for yourself to do your self-care practices. Tell them it'll have to be a month from now. I'm sorry. And if I have a cancellation, I'll fit you in. Like, that's part of your boundaries for your energy. Because if you hit a cycle of burnout, you're not going to be able to sustain what you're doing. Sustainability is the name of the game for you. So the motto for the defined will is, just because I can doesn't mean I should.
Yes.
I will also say, because of this, I find the defined will center can sometimes also have its own projection field, because you're a very capable person. So people might look at you and be like, oh, Stephanie can do it. Yeah. And you've got the projection field of the 5th line too. So it's really easy for other people to look at you and be like, you should do this for me because you can. But the motto actually is, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Doesn't mean you should. Got it.
Okay. Write that one on your mirror.
I will.
Okay. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. And for the open head center, I'll know what I need to know when I need to know it.
Okay.
Okay. 2 big mottos for you going forward.
Love that. Oh my gosh. This is so cool. I've never, ever heard human design explained like this, and so like relevant, I guess is the word. It's like,
that's always the goal.
I'm so amazed, because I've listened to things and seen this chart before and been like, this is gibberish. This makes no sense. You know, but what, this time it did.
Oh, I'm so glad. And you know what? I think this is the benefit too of like getting a personalized chart reading, because you know, you can learn all the general information. And there are people who love to be like, give me all the general info. I'm going to take my chart and I'm going to make all the notes on my thing and in the margins and like figure it all out. But sometimes if it just feels complex or like gibberish, like you're saying, having someone sit down with you and be like, this is your blueprint. This isn't like the overarching generalizations that like I would teach to a general population to apply however it works for them. This is like how it all integrates for you. And it also lets me sit across from you and be like, what are the circumstances of your life? Like, you told me some very specific things about your work schedule and the things that are happening for you right now. And I knew some very specific things about like your background and what you've kind of lived through and gone through over the last few years. Well, I can look at your chart and be like, that makes total sense here, 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 and here. And as you're moving forward, look out for these things, but also like lean into this over here. And here's this big gift you have. And here's how you know, like, that's why I think the personalization of it can also be really helpful sometimes, but I'm glad it resonated.
Oh, I love that. Okay. So if people want to do this with you, like, can they do that? How do they do that?
100%. For me, I'm over here like, I could keep talking about your chart with you for like 3 more hours, because I love this stuff and there's just so much to say about it. But yeah, if you go to my website, it's betsybatista.com. In the top navigation bar on the far right, I think there's like a book with me button, and you can click that and it'll take you to my online scheduler. And there's a bunch of different kinds of readings that you can look. If you have any questions about it, you're like, I don't know what to do, you can always just book like a standard hour and we can use that hour however you want. And if you have questions, you can also email me. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm just getting an instinct. After we finish today, I'm going to make a special coupon code just for your audience and give them a little bit of a discount if they're like wanting to try it out. You can take a little discount on an initial reading with me, and that could be fun.
Perfect. I'll put it in the show notes. Oh, it has been so good. meeting with you and talking again. I'm glad.
You
I
too.
like this circle back and like get into more nitty gritty thing.
I know. I feel like I
circling
talked
back
at
is
you
good.
for an hour, but I'm glad that it all like really landed.
I just did a lot of like head nodding the whole time.
I know. I'm like, everyone needs to watch the video so that they can see
Yes,
the interaction.
absolutely.
Because I could see you, but I don't know if everyone else could see you.
Yeah.
The
So the
feedback you
video
were
will
giving me.
be the video will be on Spotify and YouTube. So if you are listening on Apple, you gotta switch over to something else. Thank you so much for coming. This has been amazing. And definitely everybody who's listening, head to the show notes. I'll make sure that the coupon code is there so you can get this for yourself. And this has been like very, like a lot of things like just clicked for me with like all of those things you were saying. So thank you so much. This has been amazing. And it's been really fun talking to you twice. I like this.
I know, you too.
I like
I'm
this,
so
more
glad.
of it. So thank you everybody for coming back for season 2, and have a beautiful, beautiful January, and make sure that you share this episode with a friend and that you post about it on social media. Take a screenshot of you listening or whatever you're doing while you're listening, whether you're doing like groceries or walking around. I want to see it. Make sure you tag us, and I will see you on the next episode.
Hey, I'm Stephanie Rose, and I am the host of the West Rose Media podcast, Lessons from the Ashes. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and on Threads and on TikTok and all the places. My handle is at West Rose Media. Check out my website too. There are so many resources for people just like you, people who are climbing out of the ashes, ready to make a new life. I got you, babe. Make sure you follow along. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast. That way you never miss an episode and I can keep doing the magic. I can't wait to keep going. Let's get into it.